computer. There you go. And I would now like to turn the meeting over to Steve.
Thanks, Naomi. That was very nice of you. Are you the person that's collecting the $35 from each person for the talk?
Either that or pulling teeth.
Okay, good, good. Um, so I am Steve Lipofsky, and as my sister said, I'm a photographer. And let me see if I have the brains to share my. Oh, there we go.
By the way, I'm going to also be prompting Steve on timelines as we go along because we have this all divided into 8 segments.
Yeah. So, as Naomi said, I grew up in Bedford, Mass, right on the Concord River. My sister still lives there. Uh, and my mother came over on the boat from Yugoslavia in 1929. And this is the sister that Naomi was referring to in front of our house. Uh, so my dad worked at Lincoln Lab out at Hanscom Air Force Base. Uh, he was an electronics technician, but he was a very, very good photographer. Didn't do it professionally, but he was professional quality. And I learned all the basics from my dad. Uh, yeah, and there's my dad, my mom, and there's me, a handsome young man in a suit. Look at those sleeves. Uh, uh, and at a certain point, we built an extra bathroom in the house, and that became the darkroom. So that's really what piqued my interest in photography, because even now, with the digital editing capabilities that we have available, when you take a picture, it's really only half of it. And it's what you do in the darkroom, or in these days in Lightroom or in software, that pictures that you would have thought were just shouldn't see the light of day, you can really transform them. Uh, so, again, I learned the basics: shutter speed, f-stop, uh, uh, film speed, developing. And then I kind of went on my own career path in law, electronics, all sorts of things. And then I decided I wanted to become a filmmaker. So I thought, well, why don't I go to work at some of the color labs in Boston and try to become more proficient as a photographer? And as luck would have it, there was a guy working there that had a connection with the Celtics, and I got to sit on courtside at a few games. And then I lost that connection. And I thought, geez, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I'd like to go back and do that again. So I asked around, and uh, uh, people pointed me to talk to this guy. That's Jan Vogt. At the time, he was the assistant general manager of the Celtics, Red Auerbach's right-hand man. And he's the one that made the deals for Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. And since he's become one of my dearest friends. So I went into his office. Again, I should have been seeing somebody way lower down on the totem pole. And I was showing him pictures of cows looking at their reflections in ponds in Vermont and sunsets. And it was really kind of a dumb approach. I had a few images that I had shot courtside, but it's really sports photography is something that it takes a long time to become good at, and I was not good at it at that point. So Jan said, and we reference his quote whenever I run into him, uh, that he said photographers around here are a dime a dozen, but if there's some less important game, maybe we'll get you in. And sure enough, I got into a game. They happened to be shooting the team picture. I kind of crowded in with everybody else, took the picture, but I rushed right home to where I was living. Actually, excuse me, I would have been working at the color lab then. So I developed the pictures, printed them, got back to the Celtics the very next day, and they were impressed because they weren't used to that kind of service. And one thing led to another. I struck up a friendship with the people there. I started to shoot more games. And probably within a few months, I was the Boston Celtics photographer. And I did that for 23 years. And that opened up so many other opportunities for me. And the people that I've met, the experiences that I've had. I sat courtside at the Boston Garden. And here's uh, this is my first Sports Illustrated cover. I was photographing the 1986 finals in Houston. And at that time, when you were shooting an important game, even though I was not a contracted Sports Illustrated photographer, um, I was free to sell my pictures and contribute to anybody I wanted to. And if it was an important game, there would be a courier that would pick up my undeveloped film courtside, ship it off to New York. The editors would look at the pictures, send all the slides back to me, and I never knew what was going to be used, if it was going to be used. But I got a call from New York, and they said they weren't notifying me that I had a cover. They were asking me some technical question about something. And I said, oh my God, I've got a cover of Sports Illustrated. So I called my mother and I said, Mom, I'm on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And she was, okay, so your face, when she realized it was Larry Bird and not me, she lost all interest. And to her, the whole time I was with the Celtics, I was such a Mr. Big Deal here. My mother was, can't you get a nice job like your friend Joe who works for state government? She never really understood what I did. Um, Many years later, in 2006, I think it was, uh, uh, I got another call from Sports Illustrated, and the Celtics were in the finals with Los Angeles, and they said, look, normally we put your credit on the table of contents page, but because of the way we're distributing the magazine, would you mind very much? We want to credit you right on the cover of the magazine. And I don't know if it's ever been done before or since, but what I loved about what they did was that normally, like with this picture, it's what's called a full bleed. The picture takes up the entire cover of the magazine. In this case, they put the color slide on the magazine. And again, I just thought that the creative people, that made that decision, I love the way it showed off the work. Um, over the years, I became friends with Brett Auerbach. To this day, I'm friends with his daughters, and the Celtics really are a family. Just a few days ago, we had a birthday for my friend Todd Rosenzweig, who used to be the director of marketing, and Jan Volk was there. The guy I first saw, and everybody else, and we all communicate with each other. Kevin McHale and Red's daughters, and Casey Jones's daughter, and even Bill Russell's. And we all kind of keep in touch with one another. So this was a shot that there was no reason to take it. It wasn't like the Celtics said, we need a certain photo of Red. But it occurred to me that I was very cognizant of the history of what I was recording. And I thought to myself, I want a photo of Red that says something about what he's accomplished and what he's about. So we went high above courtside at the Boston Garden, and I shot this one with the banners up above, the original parquet down below, and Red, of course, with the cigar. And Red was that expression that you see of him is Red knew what he was doing. You know, Red had a sort of a patented expression and smile, and so you never had to worry about getting a good photo of Red. This one, however, this is a candid. This was outside the locker room after we had won a game against Philadelphia, where we were really supposed to be eliminated. And Red was kind of savoring the moment all alone by himself. And actually, there's a documentary out right now called Celtic City on HBO. I've got a number of photos in that. And this photo is in the opening episode, but it's in the documentary because Nancy Auerbach, Red's daughter, is kind of showing the camera crew through the wall that she's got with all the Celtic memorabilia. And this photo is hanging on the wall because this was one of Red's favorite photos. This is a photo from the 1981 finals with Houston. And this one was taken from the seats. This was just not terribly long before I became the Celtics photographer. But this I was just taking from the seats. You know, I had tickets and got in with friends and was just shooting like like a civilian. Kevin McHale was just so much fun, very loquacious. This is me and Kevin. And after the games, we would go up to the owners' offices where, we would eat their leftover Chinese food from Joyce Chen. And Kevin would almost always come up and just gossip and chat. And he was just a lot of fun to listen to. This photo was taken the night of Larry Bird's retirement. And they had a special ceremony just for that. It took up the whole evening. And this is Larry opening up Magic's warm-up jacket to the surprise of the crowd to reveal a Celtic t-shirt underneath. And this was a tough night to shoot because, again, these are the days of film. I shot all color slides, and I was out there for all the rehearsals with a light meter. Very tricky lighting, and just kind of doing the best I could and hoping for the best. This is one of the shots I got that night. And again, Sports Illustrated was picking up the film, and it turns out they ran this as a double-page spread, which was I couldn't have predicted, and that was just great. This photo was taken in the 1985 NBA Finals. And this, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson did not play the same positions. Larry was a forward, Magic was a guard. So it wasn't natural for them to be together on the court. But every time they were together, it really got my attention. And I would just look for any opportunity to get a good photograph. And, nowadays, you can take 20 frames in a second. Well, I had a strobe system in Boston Garden up in the rafters. Before every game, I would climb up to this catwalk that was like, I don't know if you've seen King Kong, but there was, at one point, all the crew members are coming across this fallen tree, and King Kong is jiggling the tree, and they're falling into a pit to be eaten by spiders. Well, that was the catwalk at Boston Garden. It was a pretty rickety, acrophobia-inducing walkway. But I would, before every game, I would go up to the catwalk, turn on these 4 very powerful flashes at every corner of the garden, the 4 corners of the garden, and I would lower like a lamp cord to the back of the backboard, and then run a cord along the baseline where I would sit and plug into that, just like, plugging in a lamp. So that when I would take a picture, it would illuminate the entire building. So for me, when I'm taking a picture like this, uh, I had the advantage over most of the other photographers because even though when you go to a sporting arena, it appears like it's well lit. And especially back in the old days in the Boston Garden, in terms of photography, it was not good light. And if you were shooting without the advantage of a strobe system like that, you were shooting in what's called available light, meaning you're dealing with the light that you have. And what it meant was shooting color was an exercise in futility. Because if you're shooting without a flash, you have to use very fast film, meaning very light sensitive. And very light sensitive film is also very grainy, and it makes it tough to take a good photograph. Again, I had the advantage and the privilege of having the strobe system. So, my stuff was very fine grained and it was Sports Illustrated quality. The downside to that is that it took almost 3 seconds for these strobe lights to recycle. And that may seem like it's not very long, but it's an eternity when, I had to pick my spots, take a shot, and then sit there for 3 seconds while perhaps the greatest play in the history of basketball took place. And there was nothing that I could do about it. One of the great things about specifically being with the Celtics was that even though I came along during the Larry Bird era, every one of those guys that had played with Red, for Red, and had won all those championships starting back in, 1957, they were still around. So, I got to meet and photograph Tommy Heinsohn, Bill Russell, and Bob Cousy, and have a nice relationship with all of those guys. The Really the core of the Celtics' phenomenal success started with the relationship between Red Auerbach and Bill Russell. That those two just loved each other. Bill Russell, very proud guy, very active in civil rights, marched with Martin Luther King. And Red Auerbach, who I don't know if he ever said anything about civil rights, but his actions spoke really loudly. Red drafted the very first black player in the NBA, Chuck Cooper. Red was the first person to put 5 black players on the court at once. And Red hired the very first black coach in the NBA or in all professional sports, and that was Bill Russell. And again, their relationship and even the relationship of their children, they still love each other. So this is a shot that I went up to that rickety catwalk in Boston Garden, and this was going to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's very last appearance at Boston Garden. He was retiring that season. So I wanted to set up a remote shot, use a remote control, have a camera above center court that I was going to fire off to get this tip off. So I go up there, I'm lying on my stomach in the catwalk, and at a certain point you get that queasy feeling in your stomach because it's a little scary. And then I noticed that the Celtics have all these banners. At this point, they had 16 banners. So one of them was blowing into the shot and it was going to ruin my photograph. So the thing about Boston is that it's who you know. It's for better or worse. So I go down to the floor, find my friend Bobby, the electrician, and I said, geez, Bobby, this banner is, he said, Steve, don't worry about a thing. He shut off all the ventilation to the building for the entire game. So, it allowed me to get that shot and others. And I noticed, I looked over at Kareem on the bench, and he was really sweating. Uh, uh, this is right after 9/11. Um, the Celtics had a ceremony, in commemoration, and brought out a gigantic American flag, and uh, I thought that that was an important moment to catch. Here's the old Boston Garden, which you hear all kinds of stories about it, no air conditioning and obstructed view seats and that sort of thing. And some people would refer to it as a dump, but I just loved that place. And it was, uh, again, it was such a privilege coming into, I don't know how many games over 23 years, but I missed one home game in 23 years. And it was like being in your living room or your high school. You knew every nook and cranny. You knew everybody that worked there, from the players to the, the bull gang that would take the floor down. Uh, this is before each game, uh, all the working press, the writers will get game notes. And the game notes would have been prepared probably by Jeff Twist, who is still with the Celtics. He came on in 1981. He's featured prominently in this documentary from HBO. Uh, so I knew that Michael Jordan in this playoff game had a shot at breaking the all-time playoff record for most points scored in a game. So, so I was poised for it. I was ready for it. And I knew that this could have been the shot. And through an awful lot of luck, I got it. Because you can see that, people are in front, they're all around him. But it worked out. And as far as I know, it's the only photograph of Michael Jordan's 63-point shot. Uh, all-time record-breaking shot that stands to this day, I believe. Naomi, how am I doing on time?
I was just going to ask you, in case we don't have all sports fans, which I don't think we do, to maybe
Yeah.
go to the next topic.
Okay. Uh, so again, because I was the Celtics photographer at a time when the Celtics were, even if you weren't a sports fan, if you were in the greater Boston area in the 1980s, you were aware of what the Celtics were. And they're just a cultural institution, and just nationwide, the Celtics uh, had a cachet that no other sports team has ever had before or since. And that allowed me to be able to get into all kinds of things, events, meet all sorts of people, because all you had to say was, "Oh, I'm the Celtics photographer," and whether it was deserved or not, they assumed a certain level of competence, and it opened all sorts of doors. So here's Bill Russell, a special celebration with Bill Cosby, when we all still love Bill Cosby. Uh, I did a number of jobs for Dunkin' Donuts, and got to shoot and hang out with Tom Brady, who was, you want to hate the guy because he's crazy success as a football player, handsome, married a supermodel, but he's the nicest guy in the world. He was just a delight to work with. Um, this is Bruce Springsteen at the dedication of the Lenny Zakem Bridge. I knew Lenny through the Celtics, through the B'nai Brit dinners that would kick off every Celtic season. Uh, and, since, known his widow and met the kids. And this is them in the background. This is Lenny's wife, Joyce, and his daughters. And Bruce Springsteen, at the dedication of the bridge, we're all out on the bridge, and he did an acoustic version of Thunder Road that the best thing I have ever heard him do. It was just amazing. Uh, and here's Bruce at a concert at the Fleet Center. And actually back in the 70s when I was in college, I bartended at a bar called Oliver's, where Bruce used to play. And they called me up on a Friday night and said, you want to come and bartend? And I said, well, who's playing? And it would either be Bruce Springsteen or this outfit called Orchestra Luna that did Broadway type stuff, like You Gotta Have Heart. And I liked Orchestra Luna a lot better. But I said, okay, I'll come. And yeah, so I was in this relatively small bar with Bruce Springsteen. Got a call from my cousin one day, and I could tell from the tone of his voice that he was going to ask me to do something for nothing. But it was probably going to be a good thing. And he was working with the National Kidney Foundation. And he said, would you come and photograph Bill Clinton? He's going to make an appearance. And so I spent the night with Bill Clinton. And I got to say, the absolute brightest person I've ever met in my life. He's very impressive, spoke off the cuff from his heart, about kidney disease and just very, very impressive. That's my cousin. He's kind of like the George Bailey of Peterborough, where I live. Uh, uh, well, your money's in Mr. Martini's house. Forgive the Jimmy Stewart impersonation. I've been living in New Hampshire since 2005, and one of the great things about living in New Hampshire is that you can meet as many presidential candidates as you want to, and for a photographer, it's a great opportunity. I've spent time with Bernie Sanders and John McCain and Mitt Romney and really Elizabeth Warren, anybody you can think of. And again, I got another one of these calls, this time from a friend of mine here in Peterborough, and I knew this was probably going to be unpaid. And this was in 2008 when Obama was going to lose to Hillary in the primary. That's what we all thought. And he said, Steve, we're having an event for Obama. Would you mind very much coming over? And I said, no, so this is in my friend's yard. There's my stepdaughter, my cousin's daughter. And I got to spend the whole afternoon with him before the event. And boy, this guy I just thought he was terrific. And certainly convinced me that I was pretty excited when he became president, and I thought that was a good decision. Got a call from People magazine one day. I used to photograph for People in Time. Again, through my work with the Celtics, it opened up so many opportunities with all sorts of publications, all sorts of situations. And they said there's going to be a special whale watch out of the New England Aquarium. And it's going to be marine biologists, oceanographers from all over the world. We're going to go out on a special whale watch. There are going to be spotter airplanes so that the whale behavior we saw, you're not going to see on a typical whale watch. But the reason I was there was that Walter Cronkite was on this whale watch. So he apparently knew, I don't know, I guess he must have been told I was coming or something, because I'm down on the dock, and before I could say anything, he comes up to me, hello, Steve, my name is Walter. Yeah. And then later, we're on the boat, and forgive all the name dropping. It's like I'm the guy that sweeps the floor. It's not like I have any great accomplishment that's allowed me to meet these people, but it's just a great opportunity and a lot of fun for me. So at a certain point in the boat, Steve, can I get you a whiskey? I said, yes, Mr. Cronkite, that would be just terrific. Thank you very much. I worked with Polaroid, with Kodak, and one of the things that Polaroid did was I would take photographs, Polaroid, of celebrities. They would turn them into life-size cutouts, and then they would pose these cutouts at different charitable events, and people would pay money and to get their photograph taken with a life-size cutout of Willard Scott. Well, so they sent me down to New York to the Today Show. And, uh, I'm in the green room with Matt Lauer at the time, was the news guy, and, meeting these other people. And so Willard comes out. He was terrific. I brought him a box of my mother's Christmas cookies. My mother's Christmas cookies were famous. They were sort of the official, unofficial cookie of the Boston Celtics. And during the course of a 10-minute conversation with Willard, he ate the whole box of cookies, which was a very impressive feat. Uh, One year, I got a call from the Celtics that, hey, we have an opening, an opportunity for you to go on an all-expense paid cruise to the Caribbean with the office, the team is, Bird, Parrish, McHale, everybody. And I was like, boy, this is great. Then I get a call from Polaroid, and they said, okay, Lee Iacocca at that time was raising funds to renovate Ellis Island, the Statue of Liberty. And as a fundraiser, they wanted somebody to come and take a photograph of Lee Iacocca to be made into a life-size cutout. Well, at the time, my mom had just read his book, and he was very proud of the fact that his parents came from Ellis Island, and my mother came to Ellis Island. I showed the picture of, she no English, 12 years old, from Yugoslavia. So I couldn't pass it up. So flew to Detroit to spend, I don't know, 30 minutes with Lee Iacocca. And I brought the book, told him about my mom. We had a nice chat, and I had him sign the book over to my mom. And I never regretted that decision. Again, for Polaroid, actually, excuse me, and forgive me for I actually worked for Donald Trump on 3 occasions, back when he owned casinos in New Jersey. And George Foreman was about to have a fight that was going to be, I think it took place at one of the casinos, and it was going to be broadcast on closed circuit. And they wanted me to take pictures of George Foreman pointing this way and another shot of him pointing this way. And they were just going to put up these life-size cutouts to point people where to go for the buffet. So I got to spend a few hours with George Foreman. Sadly, he just passed away. And he was just delightful. Same thing, I got a call to life-size cutout. That's Randy Macho Man Savage. So I photographed him at Boston Garden, met him and his lovely wife, Elizabeth, who he would occasionally lose. He would put her up as stakes in a match. I mean, it was all theatrics, I guess. So I think occasionally he would lose Elizabeth to other wrestlers.
8 o'clock.
Sorry?
No, nothing. My computer just tells the time. You're doing.
Oh, I thought that you were thinking it was appalling that a guy would lose his wife in a wrestling match. How am I doing for time with this?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
And then you're going to go to South Africa.
Yeah, do you want me to go to that now?
No, you can do it. I think a couple more celebrities, and then let's go to South Africa.
Okay. So I for probably 30 years, I've photographed charity events. I still photograph charity events for the Genesis Fund. They deal with birth defects in children, and just a great organization. And John Havlicek had a fishing tournament. That started my relationship with the Genesis Fund. So I photographed that for years, and through that, I became friends with all sorts of just really nice folk, nice celebrities. Well, so one day, Joe DiMaggio was part of the golf tournament, part of the for fundraising, and I got to spend the afternoon with Joe DiMaggio. And there's an amusing anecdote about ham sandwiches that I won't bother to say, but you know, I'm kind of used to celebrities, but Joe DiMaggio, that's a pretty big deal. And here's Joe with Carl Yastrzemski at that same event. I photographed for decades. Carl would have a Fenway Day to benefit the Genesis Fund. Because I was the Red Sox photographer for a few years as well. And, you know, if you're from Boston, again, whether you're a sports fan or not, stepping out on the field at Fenway Park, whether it's a game or not, is just, it's just one of the nicest spots in Boston. This is Ray Bork. I shot a poster, a picture that was to be made into a poster of Ray Bork, you know, Secretary of Defense. We went out to a National Guard armory off 128. I want to say Woburn, I could be wrong. And he was just great. He could not have spent more time with all of the people involved in this thing and the National Guards, guardsmen. And so we set up a Humvee with a rocket launcher. And I asked them if they could fire a rocket for the photograph, but apparently there were National Guard policies against that. So I put a flash in there and we used a smoke generator. Jack Nicholson, you know, the Lakers Celtic rivalry, Jack was, even though he was for Los Angeles, he was beloved by the Celtics fans because he was such a good sport and always really gracious to anybody from the Celtics. And this is one of my favorite photographs. For years, I've been doing photography for Harvard Medical School. And through, again, because I'm like the guy that sweeps the floor and I'm fly on the wall, I'd gotten to know Mayor Menino over many years. And his daughter worked at the Celtics for many years, Susan, and she's, you know, she's such a dear person. So one Harvard commencement, I look up and there's Oprah and Mayor Menino. And I'm like, oh, gee, this is so I was a distance because of security, I was a ways away, but I have a big booming voice, which you need as a photographer. So I'm Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, you know, and he sees me, and then Oprah's like, what's going on? And I'm gesturing, you know, and they got it. You know, I wanted the two of them to cuddle, and they did. So I got Oprah and Mayor Menino cuddling. And the friends around me, there's all of the news photographers, the sports photographers, you know, we mostly all know each other. There's been the same cast of men and women for decades. So that allowed them to get the photograph as well. And the photographers community in Boston it's really cordial. You know, we're all pretty good friends. It's a nice pond to swim in. NBA Finals in Los Angeles, you're going to see everybody. Johnny Carson, Walter Matthau, you know, O.J. Simpson, Red with Ted Kennedy at a Celtics event. And yeah, so Naomi, should I move on to South Africa?
Yep, if you can.
Sure.
You want to tell them a little bit about how you got there, the trip, what the trip was about and so forth?
Um, my girlfriend, who's a really talented artist, is originally from Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe, and she before she came to America many years ago, uh, she lived in South Africa, and her sister and her relatives are still there. And she goes back, you know, at least every couple of years. So this past fall, she said, "Well, do you want to come?" I said, "Well," she's saying, "You're really going to need a month to be." I said, "Oh, I haven't taken a month off since I was 25 years old." It was really daunting for me. And yeah, South Africa, okay, I guess. It wasn't at the top of my list exactly, but now that I've been, it's absolutely at the top of my list. Of all the places in the world that I could go, I would want to go back there. The people were amazing, uh, and the the friendliness, and then we spent uh, about 8 days in Kruger. Uh, it's a park, a wild animal reserve that's bigger than Holland. Uh, and I don't know. At some point, I'm going to talk about photography, about the technical aspect of it, if anybody is interested. Uh, so I had brought a couple of lenses, wide lens, a telephoto lens, uh, only one camera body. Uh, but the two women that I was with, my girlfriend's sister and her companion, uh, they lent me this lens. And again, this may be nerdy, but it was a 28 millimeter to 300 millimeter. And that meant I could go wide, and I could go very tight. I could, and animals, I thought I was going to need some super long lens. And that wasn't the case, because the animals were just right in front of us. There were at least 4 occasions where we came pretty close to being knocked over by elephants. Uh, then there was one instance where there were a bunch of rhinoceros at a water hole, and this elephant came charging into them. And this is just before he scattered the rhinoceros. And the rhinoceros were streaking past the car. And I found out later they have really terrible vision. So that was there was an incident not long ago where a rhino picked up a vehicle with its horn and just threw the car. And I think everybody was killed. Uh, but I was, not that I wasn't maybe a little anxious, but what upset me more than anything was that in order to really save our lives, the driver reversed us out of there. And if we just another few seconds, and I would have got the rhino scattering. Um, these are hippos, which was explained to me that, more so than rhinos or anything else, they're pretty vicious. They'll kill each other. They kill other animals. Um, this is a, uh, a pelican or stork. Forgive me for not remembering. Uh, and what was interesting was that after a few days and observing their behavior, it was interesting that the crocodiles and the birds, spoonbills, pelicans, um, they the crocodiles won't bother the birds. They kind of have a symbiotic relationship where the crocodile is going to wait for the bird to stir up fish, and then the croc is going to go for the fish. So in this case, the croc is, he's jealous. He wants that fish, uh, but it won't harm the bird. Um, this is the fish in midair.
That's a great
The
shot.
bird, what's that?
It's a great shot.
Oh, thanks. Uh, this is the fish in midair, and you see the croc, who is trying to strike and get the fish. The bird has stirred the fish up, and yeah, it's kind of interesting to get glean some appreciation of the behavior of the animals. Um, this is a European. It'll come to me. Sorry. And there were beautiful birds everywhere we looked, or everywhere we went, uh, whether it was in the game reserve or other places. And our thing was that we wanted to get them in flight. So we would just sit there for I don't know how long. And I shouldn't admit it, but we resorted to occasionally making noises to see if we could startle the birds, and it almost never worked. Uh, Crocodile, just uh, they were. This is just in one pond. There were crocodiles, hippopotamus, impalas, just a whole wealth of animal life. This elephant was really aggravated. I don't know if the still photograph does it justice. But again, for photographers out there, the beauty of having that lens that would go from wide angle to tight, uh, this was a shot that kind of called out for a wide shot, and I was really grateful to have that lens that they lent me. Male and female lion. As you're driving along, uh, you the women that I was with were old hands at African wildlife and specifically at this park, Kruger. And you're driving along the road. You're not allowed to get out of your car, unless you're in some special ranger guided safari. Uh, so they were really adept at spotting animals when there were little specks on the side of the road. And these two lions, again, not a particularly telephoto lens, uh, they came close enough to the car that if I had reached out, I would have been able to pet them. Not that that would have been a good idea. So here we are just about to walk past the car. These are cheetahs. Uh, you can tell a cheetah from a leopard because you see these sort of the black tears, so to speak, coming down. That's indicative of a cheetah. And my girlfriend was very proud because she was the one that spotted these guys. And they're hard to. It's rare to be able to find them. And we're driving along, and she says, "Stop the car." And this was her moment of glory that she spotted these guys.
Wow.
Everywhere we went, there were impalas, just everywhere. Not the Chevy, but the deer-like creatures. These are a couple of hippos. This is the other side of that same pond where you saw the pictures of the crocodile and the pelican uh, and the hippopotamus. Uh, and this is just at a lodge within the park. There's a water fountain, and these are starlings, but they're better looking than ours. This is what they look like in Africa. And there was a couple of hippos that somebody pointed out to me that this kind of looked like the yin and yang symbol. Zebras do this a lot. They kind of rest their heads on each other's backs or nuzzle each other. Um, these are monkeys, well, obviously, and again, I should be better prepared. There's only one kind of monkey I saw everywhere in South Africa. Begins with V, ver something, uh, and they were everywhere. Like this happens to be in a wild animal reserve, But outside of the house where I was staying in Durban, in North Durban, we'd come out of the driveway and there'd be 30 or 40 monkeys just running around the neighborhood like we see squirrels, but even more of them. This is an impala leaping. Uh, it was not very hard to get photographs of impalas that looked like they were levitating. This is a hornbill. Uh, this is at a rehabilitation center where there were animals that were hurt that were probably never going to be released into the wild. But I just thought that the eyelashes, were remarkable. And then we went to, Jane Goodall has a chimp place called Chimp Eden, where chimps that have been mistreated, you know, they're never going to be able to survive in the wild. They may have all sorts of problems. There are families of chimps living there. And the woman who took us around, one of the people that take care of the chimps, uh, she was feeding them, and she would throw food to them, vegetables. And these chimps were amazing catches. Well, again, as I mentioned, I was the Red Sox photographer for a couple of years, and it really came in handy because it was just like photographing Major League Baseball players. They were remarkable catchers. So so my experience came in handy.
Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to ask if we're going to get to drone photography, you're going to have to make it a little short and then
Sure,
art and editing, and we might go a little overtime because I know people want to hear about editing and I know they want to see it, just a few shots of drone.
sure. Uh, so I use uh, if people actually use drones or have drones, I use a DJI Mavic. Now I have a Mavic Pro 2 because my Mavic is somewhere in a marsh in Duxbury. I'll never see it again. So I had to get another drone. Um, this is looking straight down at a bridge here in Peterborough with ice, frozen water. Um, and when I shoot, a drone has a much smaller sensor than the big professional cameras that I work with. And it means that you're not going to be able to blow the pictures up as large. They're not going to have as high resolution. So what I do is to shoot, as you can see in this picture, this is the same photograph. And I shot about 8 or 9 photographs and stitched them all together. Uh, and then I adjusted brightness, contrast. All these colors are here. They're not artificially introduced, but this is edited into this. Uh, and here's another before and after. Uh, this is another drone photograph that probably is about 10 photographs stitched into one. Um, and I bring it into Lightroom and use, okay, so I'll go to develop and, oh, good. I'm moving you guys out of the way. You're not aware that I'm moving you, I don't think. And Lightroom has, so here's the before picture. Here's the after. And I superimposed, I have an electric train set in the basement, so I decided to put a train on the tracks. Trains don't run on this track anymore. But in Lightroom, you have just a whole host of controls this is clarity. Uh, now I'm boosting saturation. This is called vibrance. This is something called dehaze. And you can, there's a whole suite of different adjustments that you can make. And the beauty of Lightroom is that you will, you may have a photograph, like here's, uh, let's see, I've got you guys here. This is the before. And this is the after. Um, so again, this is a reflection of a boat in the water. Like I like to shoot abstractions and I love Monet. I like to see what rippling water, what effect it will have on images. In fact, when I shoot 4th of July fireworks, I don't even shoot up in the sky. I pretty much shoot just reflections of the colors. So I'm going to go back here. And so the first thing I would do would be to crop. I'm going to straighten the bridge out. And now I'm going to boost up the saturation a little bit. There's some dark areas here, so I'm going to lighten the shadows. And then with any digital camera, right out of the camera, the images are almost never sharp enough. So I'm going to sharpen it. And the beauty of Lightroom is, so I've made all of these adjustments. And what I can do is create a preset called Bridge to memorize everything I've done. All right, now I'm going to get rid of everything I've done. And I didn't memorize the crop, so I'm going to need to crop again. Now all I have to do is hit this button, the bridge button, and it will perform all of those adjustments that I just made. So Naomi, I don't know if at this point, do you want me to talk about photo editing?
That would be great. And if people have questions, you could either put them in the chat or unmute yourself and then remute. But let's
Let me pause at this point. If anybody has any questions about anything that's gone on previously, or anybody has any specific questions that pertain to photography or editing, because I think I'm coming up toward the end of my.
I just had a quick question, Steve. At what point did you move from film to digital? And when did, when you're doing the portraiture work, and at what point, you were sending photos off. So what point was that digital and what point did you then start doing your own editing?
I, as soon as I became aware of digital, I couldn't wait for it. And because I had a great relationship with Kodak, they gave me all my film in return for me giving credits. I got the loan of these $20,000 Kodak digital cameras. They were crazy expensive at the time and did not have the resolution that your smartphone has now. They gave me a printer that at the time would have cost $22,000 to print out these digital photographs. So that was, I'm going to guesstimate it being around 2001,
Wow.
around that time. So even then, the cameras were not good enough to take the place of film. It took a couple more years. I'm going to say that it was probably 2003, maybe. If anybody wants to email more exactly, I can do that. But when Nikon came out with the D1, D1X, now these cameras were good enough to take the place of film. And when I was shooting film, I'd shoot maybe 10 rolls of film a night. 36 shots on each roll of film, so I could shoot 360 photographs in an evening. It would cost me $10 a roll. Well, I was getting it from Kodak. So it would have cost $10 a roll. So that would have been $100 for film. I did pay for processing, which is another $10 a roll. And then you just had to pray that the pictures came out. That I showed you before the photograph of Larry Bird opening up Magic Johnson's jersey. Well, I didn't. I metered. I went all around Boston Garden with a light meter. In fact, even for the regular games, I would walk all around the floor of Boston Garden and use that strobe system I had and learn where the lighter spots, the darker spots were, and I would change my camera settings. The two basic camera settings you have are shutter speed and f-stop. Shutter speed is how long that shutter stays open to let the light hit the film or the sensor. F-stop is like the iris in your eye. It opens and closes. The third variable is the speed of the film or the sensitivity, your ISO of your camera. So with that shot of Larry and Magic, even though I did everything I possibly could to try to predict the lighting, even then, when I sent the film to the lab, I said, can you do a clip test? And what that is in complete darkness, they'll pull some of the film out, snip it off, and develop it. And either I or one of the technicians will look at it. In this case, I'm trusting the technician. I said, take a look at it. If you think it's too light or too dark, then they can do what's called pushing or pulling the film. And I see you nodding. That pushing film means that a long time ago in this presentation, I said that if you're shooting film in very low light, you need to use a very light sensitive film that's very fast, and then the pictures will turn out a little grainy. Well, you can use a film that's not all that sensitive, and then you sort of pretend that this is a film that's good in low light, and you tell the lab later, or when you're developing the pictures, you develop a little bit longer, and it allows you to get photographs that you wouldn't have been able to get because the light was too dim. So, and I'll just bore everybody for one more minute with this clip test thing. So the clip test, you clip the film off, as I said, develop it. And then the guy's going to say, well, you know what? I think we need to give this a little bit more time. Well, here's the thing. When you pull that film out and clip it, you don't know what you're clipping. You might have just clipped the best photograph I had ever taken in my whole life, right through the middle of somebody's face. But you just, in order for you to not ruin the whole roll of film, it's just a chance that you have to take. Did that?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's interested in the digital processing, but thank you very much. I was just curious, what cameras you started with and now where you're at in terms of your equipment too, but thank you.
What I'm using now and also back in those olden days, when we were using film cameras, I used 3 cameras when I was shooting courtside with the Celtics. I had one camera with a relatively short lens, meaning that it had kind of a wide field of view. It wasn't a real close-up lens. It was actually an 85 millimeter lens. Then I had another lens for when they're bringing the ball up court, they're at half court or at the foul line. That was a 180 millimeter lens. And then I have this monster lens. I should have it here to show you that it's even difficult to hand hold. And it's a 400 millimeter f2.8. 400 millimeter is an indication of, it tells you that this is a telephoto lens. It's going to bring distant objects close. When I say it's an f2.8, and again, at the risk of putting everybody to sleep, it's the f-stop of the lens, and the smaller the number, like f2.8, means it's an f2.8 lens has a lot of light gathering. It's a very fast lens and good for shooting in low light. And if you watch old films from NBA basketball games in those days and look at the photographers on the sideline, it's like a ballet. When the action's close, you see us all in unison picking up a short lens. Now we pick up a medium lens. Now we pick up a long lens. So we're all, it's kind of like synchronized swimmers. And also back then, we didn't use zoom lenses because they weren't good enough. The image quality wasn't good enough. And also they weren't suitable for use in low light. So that gets me to nowadays, I'm using, I use a Nikon D780, Nikon D750, and I use zoom lenses. When I'm shooting at Harvard Medical School or any job, I always use two cameras. One has a wider zoom lens, like a 24 to 70, 24 to 85, and the other lens will be something like a 70 to 200. Naomi, has everybody gone to sleep?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but let's see if anybody else has any questions. They seem to still be cooking,
Oh, good.
but I don't know. We probably will need to wrap up because we're getting close to the time. Does anyone else have any questions? If so, please unmute.
This is Columbus Castings. It's the largest steel foundry in the country. I just wanted to show a picture of that. I had a chance to wander around there at the risk of my own life, and it was one of the great experiences of my life.
You had a lot of great experiences.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Way back when you were talking about putting the train tracks on the bridge, when you were taking that aerial photograph, in Lightroom, I understand in Photoshop there's that capability, but I haven't known that capability of double exposure in Lightroom.
So you mean, can you do that in Lightroom?
Yes.
No. It's Lightroom is wonderful for cataloging your images. I have one catalog with more than 2 million images in it. And when I shoot a job, I may shoot, I might shoot an event and I could shoot as many as 2,000 photographs. And I'll
Right.
go through them in Lightroom. And out of the 2,000, I might pick out 200 that I like. Then I'll adjust them in Lightroom, as I showed you before, the lightness, the contrast. But if I'm going to do something that requires more manipulation with layers, where I'm going to put Naomi on the surface of the moon, and then have an elephant sneaking up behind her, then I go to Photoshop, where I
Yes.
can select Naomi very quickly and easily and just pop her out of a picture, select the elephant, pop it out of the picture, put them all together. Now, this is not the same thing as AI. There
Oh,
is
I
artificial
understand. I
intelligence.
understand. Yes.
Well,
Thank you.
If you wish to do what he mentioned, Steve's mentioned, you can have, I use on one raw and max, and it can do both what Lightroom and Photoshop does and some.
It's called On
On one raw. They
Now,
started,
there's
and
a lot of good free software out there.
I've had it from the beginning of their existence when they progressed. And not only are they, in my view, I mean, I don't know, I have oh, 60 years of experience with photos, if not 70. But for software, for digital, they are, in my view, first of all, they're a combination of both. And you can own it, you don't have to pay a subscription. And you can also they have look it up. And if you know how to use Photoshop, then you'll know very quickly how to use that. Not on, not only that, but it's much easier to use in many ways. And they answer, they do everything you want.
It's good to know.
Nicole, I'll put it in the chat. Was that one view?
What?
I can put
Nicole, I think
chat.
it's one view, and then there's a third word.
No.
Raw.
On one raw. On one.
Okay.
ON, and then one raw.
Okay, I put it in the chat. And if it's wrong, you'll have to correct it.
Okay.
How about, does anybody else have any questions? Dari, did you have your hand up?
No,
Oh, anyone else with questions?
The chat is disabled.
What do you mean disabled? I just did it.
Says, yeah, I know, but from others, it says, I tried, I was going to write on it, and it said, chat, who
That's
can
so-
see?
It's
Yeah.
interesting because I definitely enabled it.
But on, well,
Who knows?
I had it a minute ago.
Yeah.
It's there for me. But it does say chat disabled at the bottom.
that's
it
what I
popped.
said. So when I tried, I can click all I want. It's not going to do anything.
I give up. But I wonder, I'd also love to, okay, here's the button to stop recording. Oh, that's a great shot.
Yes.
I won't.
Yeah, again, that's a reflection of fireworks in the water. This is a drone shot. We're just right outside my front door here in Peterborough.
Wow.
Apple orchard, another drone shot looking straight down. And this I did use Photoshop. This is Peterborough, and I got to be friends with a guy that owned a B-17 bomber and flew during World War II. So I decided that this picture of Peterborough could use a little gussying up, so I threw a couple of B-17 bombers in it.
Wow. No, that's a good one too. Oh, what's that? What was that one you just passed? Yeah, what's
This
that?
this is I was shooting from a canoe. This is not retouched or Photoshop. It's leaves underneath the water. Also reflection of foliage reflected in the water, and leaves floating on the water. On the water surface.
Do
This
you,
is Photoshop.
wow.
This is the whale. This is part of a life-size diorama from the Museum of Natural History in New York, with a shot I took of Niagara Falls from the Maid of the Mist.
Do you belong to Boston Camera Club?
No, somebody asked me about that the other day.
I mentioned it to you because Nicole is a very big active member, and so is Bert. They're both active in our group and in the Boston Camera Club. Do you want to give
Yeah,
a plug, Nicole?
Well, I think Boston Camera Club is the first or second photo club of this country in terms of when it was established. And they have a variety of members. Some are very good and advanced, some are beginners, maybe, but it's always fascinating to see what everybody's doing. So uh, we meet every Tuesday evening, but sometimes on Zoom, sometimes in person. We have competitions. We have also we share with other clubs. So I don't know. You might enjoy. I think you'd enjoy it. I mean,
I'll look into it.
yes, please do.
It
I
might be a
see that
little bit of a trot from Peterborough.
you don't. It doesn't matter. You they have on stuff on Zoom also.
Hmm.
Yeah, actually, I work in Boston a lot.
Yeah.
Most of my work is in Boston.
So you can always plan it. And I think it's wonderful, but I'm I'm no expert in knowing what's wonderful or not. Just I only know what I like and what I've been doing. We're all in the same boat.
You're an expert in knowing what's wonderful?
No, I'm no expert. I just know what I like, and I think I have experience, and I think seeing your beautiful photos,
Well,
I
thank you.
think you would enjoy it.
Thanks. I have heard about it, and I know it's highly regarded. Yeah.
So on that note, I think it's time to draw to a close. I just want to mention one other thing I forgot to mention, which is that on May 3rd, we will have Dr. George Mutter, and he will be talking about stereopticon photography and the history of photography. And we'll put together the constant contact for that as soon as possible. I'm going to meet him at the gallery on Friday to check that the room is dark enough for his presentation requirements. So then after that, and after we finalize, I'll put out the constant contact, and that will be May 3rd. So I think it's time to draw to a close, and I want to thank everybody for participating. I especially want to thank you, Steve, for taking all the time to put this together and to share all of the fabulous photos that you have. And so if you'd like more information about the BAA or the BGA, please contact me or Dari. And if you'd like more information about Steve's work, I posted his website on my Facebook page. It's on Dari's Facebook page. I'm sorry, it's on the Belmont Art Association Facebook page. So it's easy to reach Steve. And I think his email address, I believe, yes, is also in the constant contact I sent out.
Mhm.
A Facebook post as well.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Steve, I think the folks at Rivermead would love your presentation.
Oh, do you know